Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2021 film So Vam. It is a Shudder exclusive film and it's coming to Shudder on Tuesday, August 23rd, which is weird because they're usually on Thursdays, sometimes Fridays, but this is a Tuesday. Now I'm going to start this off by saying every film is worth watching at least once, if for nothing else than to just figure out how you personally feel about that film. Obviously, a lot of people know what that means. It means I didn't enjoy this film. There are some things I did think are working for it, and I will talk about those, but I'll also talk about the things I didn't really like. Just so people know, I never enjoyed doing videos like this where it's a film I don't enjoy because A, nobody wants to watch a film that they don't enjoy, but B, and probably the bigger thing, definitely the bigger thing, is I don't like putting negativity on filmmakers and actors and all that jazz because it just doesn't feel good. You know, a lot of work goes into films, a lot of passion goes into films, and I know that. And so it feels bad when I don't like a film, but at the same time, I don't lie about my reviews. And thankfully, I have a lot of people who watch my videos and will say, you know what, I hear what you're saying about it, but I'm going to watch it anyway. That's great. I love it. And I will say that So Vam, guarantee it's going to find an audience. It's going to find an audience. Every single film does. So everyone involved with this, if I say anything negative having to do with what you did with the film, performances, filmmaking, whatever, it's just my opinion. I still respect you. Just saying. Anyway, let's get into it. Directed by Alice Maio Mackay, or Mackay, I'm sorry, who also did Bad Girl Boogie, which is a cool title name, by the way. Written by Mackay and Benjamin Pahl Robinson, who did a lot of short films and also did After Images and Bad Girl Boogie. So that's a relationship that's been there between those two. Shudder exclusive, once again, coming Tuesday, August 23rd. Synopsis. I'm not going to tell you too much about the story because it's relatively simplistic. It's a vampire film, as you can probably tell from the title, but it is a queer vampire film. So I really wanted to love this film because it's a queer horror film. And to be honest, we don't have enough queer horror films. So I would like to see more, and I would like to see more really good ones. Now, for the reason that this is a queer horror film, I give that a thumbs up. I think obviously we should get more of this stuff, but obviously I didn't really like the film overall, and I'll tell you why. But like I said, tell you some of the good stuff. There is a trigger warning in the beginning of the film, which not a lot of films do trigger warnings. To be honest, I don't really think you need to do that as far as horror films go, but I guess it's, like a good courtesy to kind of throw that out there. This film does deal in bullying, it does deal in some slurs that are used that can be very offensive to people. So I guess for some people it is good to kind of like know that going in because it can be pretty traumatizing based off stuff people have experienced or just stuff that people really don't like. So up to the filmmaker's discretion. I don't think it's really necessary because with horror films, there's always the potential of people kind of being offended or upset about something. But, it's fine. There is some cool lighting in this. One of the things I really did enjoy about this is very interesting, cool lighting throughout the film. So whoever handled the lighting nailed it. They know what they're doing. They did an excellent job with it. And it's not just lighting so like there aren't any harsh shadows or anything. It's lighting with interesting colors to make scenes pop, to make scenes look interesting. The other thing is this film takes place in the 80s, which it does look 80s, and I think the color choices with the lighting really help kind of enhance the feel and the kind of like fun, cool vibe of the 80s that they're going for. So, lighting, phenomenal. Some of the audio in the beginning of the film, this does get cleaned up later on, so I'm assuming this was just some issue they had. They got it fixed during the film but couldn't go back. Some of the audio has a bad echo to it in the beginning of the film, kind of like they were recording it in a hallway. So that's a technical problem going on right there, but like I said, it gets cleaned up. So it's really only going on a few times within maybe like the first 10 minutes, and then it kind of went away. So that's good. They got whatever the issue was figured out. Unfortunately, the main character's line delivery is not great. Seems very rushed, like they're trying to just get it done. They're just trying to get the lines out and be done with it. And it's kind of like they're kind of like quickly reading. The other issue is you can kind of see the main character thinking about acting. I don't know if anyone experiences that as well. Like, it's a particular look that you can see where it look like you can tell just looking at them that they're thinking about delivering the lines. So there's not a whole lot of emotion in it. There's not a whole lot of nuance to the actual acting. So unfortunately, did not like the performance of the main actor. They are young. So, when people are young, they've got plenty of time ahead to improve. I've done some acting in my time in small independent stuff. I'm not always the greatest. Sometimes I was downright bad. So I get it. But I will say this about that individual. They did a drag performance in the film at one point, and I thought they did quite a good job with that. I'm a fan of drag, so I was down to see some drag in this. I like Dragula, Boulet Brothers Dragula. I like RuPaul's Drag Race. My wife and I are both fans of drag performances. It's a very interesting, cool art, in my opinion. There's a drag performance early on, which is a solid drag performance, but I do feel like they let the scene go on too long. It's a little early in the film to kind of like drag something out like that. You kind of need to hit the ground running and get story going and everything. So it's fine to show that. It's engaging, it's interesting, it's cool, the drag performance, but the scene goes on a bit too long. They probably needed to kind of shave that down a little bit. But talking about film length, this is something that I do think is a big positive with the film. The pacing was relatively good. It was an hour and 12 minutes with credits, and I have to applaud them for that because they're not one of these people who stretched it for time, for runtime, because I harp on that all the time. Like, there are films where you can tell that they stretched it for runtime, and with this one, at an hour and 12 minutes, you can tell they did not stretch it for runtime, so I'm very glad that that's the case. That is a huge positive with this. Even though I didn't overall like the film, and I thought there were a lot of technical issues, and the acting wasn't very good for the most part, and the story had a lot of problems, in my opinion, it moved pretty well. And to a degree, it had a fun feeling to it. So the fact that I wasn't a big fan of the film, yet the pacing felt good, does say a lot, in my opinion. There is some awful looking CGI, unfortunately. And between the acting performances and seeing how bad the CGI looks in it, it really made me realize that this is probably a no-budget film. I'm not saying it's a low-budget film. I think it's a no-budget film. So for that reason, I feel like I should be a little more lenient on it, but I just got to rate films as films. This got picked up by Shudder. I'm just rating it as a film, basically. So yeah. Anyway, I can't figure out if the dialogue is a problem or if it's kind of just the overall line delivery of the cast. I think there are a few moments where the dialogue seems a little bit weird and off, or like there are some kind of like weird shifts in the performance, not the performance, the way characters are interacting and reacting. It's just like this weird shift that doesn't seem to make sense with what's going on in the film. But there are times where like the dialogue's fine, the script is fine, it's just the acting kind of makes you wonder if it is or is not. I think overall the script is not bad. I think there needed to be a lot more actual story to it. I just unfortunately think that the performances kind of drag a lot of the script down, and it just kind of sucks for that reason. Because there was a good concept here. There definitely was, and I wanted to really like it, but I just didn't. There's too much telling and not enough showing in this, so you kind of feel at times like you're being treated as a child, as being the viewer. Like, they feel the need to explicitly say things to you because you're not going to pick up on it if they just show it to you. That's one thing that a lot of kind of filmmakers early on have a tendency to do that ends up getting kind of weeded out as they continue to make film. And I would say that I would hope that the people involved with this film would continue to make film because there are plenty of positives for a very early entry in their film careers. Character reactions to situations don't make sense some of the times, actually a decent amount of the times. Now, part of that comes down to acting, but part of it comes down to script, unfortunately. I do like the music that they used in this. The music is great, and I think maybe that helps a little bit with making the pacing so good and kind of maintaining like a bit of a fun, cool, light vibe to the film at the same time. Also, just the subject matter, keeps it kind of light and fun. But there are times where it does get cranked up a little too high. Like they cranked the volume in comparison to where the dialogue volume was, just a little bit too, well, a little bit more than a little bit too much. But not everywhere. It's just like here and there. So it wasn't a consistent problem. About 40 minutes in, there is an interesting twist to the story that had some really fun implications to it. But then I found out that this twist wasn't actually what I thought it was. I made an assumption about it, and that fun didn't end up getting generated. So I saw a really good opportunity they could have seized with the scripting of this that they chose not to go down that path. Like, and it literally seemed to me as a viewer, oh, here's something interesting that I think they're doing, and they didn't do it, unfortunately. But, it is what it is. There's a scene towards the end that is shot in green lighting, and that was a really cool shot scene. It looks really good. It's got a really cool horror aspect to it, and bathing everything in green light really worked for it for some odd reason. Like, that's not something I would have thought if I was composing the film, like actually directing that. I wouldn't have been like, yeah, and we bathed this all in green lighting, but it looked really good. That's one of the best looking scenes in the film. Once again, though, going back to the lighting in this is really well done. The film closes with a drag performance. It is long, but in this instance, that is totally fine. Where I did have a problem with the long one in the beginning because we really needed to get things going, the film's basically over when the drag performance at the end happens, so it feels more appropriate. It feels totally fine because as a viewer, you're kind of kicking back and relaxing. Everything's been resolved. Well, not everything, but things have been resolved for the most part with the story, so you can just feel free to kick back and just enjoy a drag performance. So I like that aspect of it. I was down with that. There is a nice uplifting feel to the end of the film as well, which I liked, kind of going with the light, fun vibe of it, so that was nice. And the end credits are really fun. Very, very fun end credits. Part of the reason being, too, like, there's a lot of interesting, nice color. They're just done in a fun graphics way. And the music, the particular song used for the end credits, I liked a lot. That was probably well, no, it definitely was my favorite piece of music used in the entire film. Although overall, the music was good in the film. Shout out to Ethan McErleen. I hope I got that right. Shout out to Ethan McErleen, who I believe had the best performance in this film. I wish they would have had a larger role, but they did a really, really, really good job acting. You could tell that that was the most seasoned person of acting as far as acting goes. And if not, they're just naturally good at it. Just saying. The idea of this film is solid, and equating vampirism with queerness is a very cool concept. Like I said, this is a great idea. There's some really good stuff here. It just doesn't come together the way I would want it to, or a lot of other people may end up wanting it to. But, like I said, check it out for yourself. Make a decision on it. I think there's some good stuff going on here. It's not all great, but it's a mixed bag. But like I said, I feel like it's a no-budget film. So these people should continue and, refine your process, refine your craft as you go. So out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm going to give it 1.5 stars. Unfortunately, just saying. It's not, I feel bad, like I said, but it is what it is. I'm not going to lie about how I felt about the film. So anyway, I would love to hear other people's perspectives on this film, especially if they really enjoyed it. Do you think there's something I'm missing? I also just like to get into people's heads and understand why do you really like a film or not like a film or whatever. So you can put some comments down there. We can talk spoilers once you've seen it. That's fine. So if you don't want spoilers, don't read the comments. Just leave a comment. But yeah, let's talk about the film. Let's do this. And are you with me? Do we need more queer horror? Because I think so. I really think so. By the way, I would highly recommend a few queer-related horror films. My Nightmare on Elm Street, the documentary about the Mark Patton and his terrible experience with making Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Also related, Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is a good queer film to watch. Knife and Heart is another really great one, in my opinion. And from the 70s, Private Parts. That's another interesting one. Although some people may kind of debate whether it's fully like a good queer horror film or not. There's kind of a bad bent to it, but it's an interesting film nonetheless. Oh, Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker from the 80s. That's a good queer horror film to watch. Just throwing out a few. And actually, people, give me some more recommendations for good queer horror films. I would love to check out more. Anyway, thank you very much. Hit subscribe to my channel if you can, and you can. That's the best way to repay me if you like this video or any video I've ever done. Also hit the notification bell button, because then that way you'll know when I'm putting up new videos, which I'm doing 4 a week at this point, which I think is a good amount. Regardless, I really do thank you for taking your time to watch this particular video, and until next time, keep it brutal.